All right. Good evening, everybody. I'm hoping that you you can hear me just fine. Uh, I hope maybe a thumbs up or something to hint at the fact that, or maybe somebody can unmute and confirm that you can hear me just fine if my audio is fine. I'm audible.
Yes, we
Ah,
can hear you.
okay. Thank you very much. Um, yeah. We found a venue, but I was waiting for Mr. Nyirenda to actually kind of like confirm the venue is available. But just as well, I think what the kind of like course that we are looking at right now requires that you're kind of like testing things out. I mean, it's a topic we're looking at right now. Requires that you're testing things out and stuff. So it's okay even if it's online or something. But certainly next week's session is going to be in person. Also, I wanted to indicate that I was supposed to schedule a makeup session, but I didn't because I had a series of makeup classes over the weekend. So because I traveled, I mean, a number of classes I was supposed to have ideally have associated makeup sessions, right? So what I decided to do is I've kind of like identified, I've come up with a plan. So I was mostly handling the undergraduate courses this last weekend ideally. And then this coming weekend here, this is me tentatively asking if we can schedule a class tentatively here on a Saturday or something. And again, my availability is 14 hours and 17 hours. So either we start at 14, so I have to do 14 up to 17 or 17 up to 20. And the reason I say this is because there's another postgraduate course that I would want to schedule a makeup for. Yeah, so if you can let me know as soon as possible, that would be really, really nice when you discuss this internally. We're taking baby steps, we're taking baby steps for a reason, right? Because we know that if you look at the profile of people enrolled into the course, a great many of them actually don't really have extensive experience with programming. So those of us that have experience with programming, bear with us. We are, at least until the next session, I think we're going to take it easy here so that we are all on the same page. And maybe I should do a poll here, right? I'll do a poll and then I'll make it available because I want to have a sense of how many people are doing this for the first time, like programming or something. But when we met last week, some of the key outcomes of last week's session is we explained, I think we provided an explanation of what a computer program is. Incidentally, right? We discussed different types of programming language. We discovered that programming languages can be viewed from a perspective of the layer of abstraction is called in computing, is it? The levels is high abstraction, and then there's some like low level abstraction, right? Low abstraction, right? So in high abstraction, this is where you have high level languages, right? High level languages like Python, which we're using, PHP, Java, JavaScript, But we see here that some languages actually, like the ones that are used by kids. So if you're one of those people who probably has kids and they go to a very expensive private school or something, I'm sure your daughter or your son has told you, Mama or Papa or something, they're teaching us how to use Scratch or something like that, right? So you don't really write, it's a visual kind of language, ideally, right? It's a visual language, you know. So these are all high-level languages, and they're called high-level languages because they're associated with, you know, the higher levels of abstraction. As you're moving to when you're dealing with low levels of abstraction, typically you are writing it's low-level code, right? So things like assembler, where you have things like add, this and this, mode, you know, div, you know, things that, you know, will be difficult for you to understand unless if you read the manual or something. There's some words that can be related to English, to the English terms and phrases, but for the most part you have got to look up the manual or something. Or machine code. Well, some low-level languages here would not really be as aggressive as assembler code here, but things like C and C++, I want to argue, like low-level languages ideally, but they're really hard, notoriously hard, because what you're doing at this level is you're controlling things like memory usage. You see, when you're writing a computer program, right, that's going to generate graphs or do like enable you to do or to build like some machine learning model or something like that, well, you're not really going to bother so much about things like how is this computer program going to use computer memory or processor power or something, or the processor, right? How do I ensure that it's making effective and efficient use of my processor, my compute resources? You don't care about that. Why? Because you're working at a relatively high level of abstraction. You're pushing, right, that donkey work to your operating system. You don't care actually. You just write your program. Your goal is I want the user to be able to point and click and to use my application. That's it. You don't care how memory is going to be used, right? You're working at a very high level of abstraction. So we did that. And then something else we did was we say, for us to get started with this Python programming language, there are certain tools that we need, right? We said that fundamentally we should all get to a stage where that's a hand up here. Yes, there's a hand up? Yes. I don't know if that was a mistake. Okay, maybe a mistake. But we said that in terms of tooling, because we're going to be using the Python programming language, which we said the Python programming language is, it's high level, it's interpreted, right? And we provide a distinction between an interpreted language and a compiled language. Yeah, interpreted language and compiled language. With a compiled language, the end result is an executable, right? So you use your compiler to generate the executable, and then you give the executable to the person who wants to use your software. But with an interpreted language, we realize that when we write computer programs, users of our programs will need an interpreter associated with the language we use. So in this particular case, you need an interpreter, so the Python interpreter, right? And I've been showcasing the Python interpreter where I say, in my case, I use the Python interpreter in a certain way. I can just write Python here. This is the interpreter itself, right? Well, it's one way of accessing the interpreter anyway, right? So this is the thing that you use to execute code. So in other words, when a person wants to use your computer program, let's say I create a simple program here, and you know, guys, I'm going to activate the the environment for this source, and then if you look at this, right, I have Python installed here. What version of Python? Python --v version 3.12.3 or something like that. Now, if I want, right, I can write a very simple program. Say I'm going to write a simple program that graduation. I'll call it graduation mode, graduation.py. And then in here, I'll just say print, I am graduating in, and I'll just say 2026 plus I'll just say input. I'm going to say what? Enter duration of program in years or something like that. I don't know if it's going to work here, right? I don't know, right? So that I write a program like that, and then for a user to use that simple program, they'll have to execute that program using an interpreter. So in this particular case, I'll say I want to run the graduation program, and the way it works is that's me. Enter the duration of program, 2 years, I guess. And then I'm saying I'm graduating in. I'll have to fix this again. You see now, guys. I have to cast this stuff here. Don't worry about this. I say run this when I graduate in 2 years time, and then it's telling me, but why is this failing here? 2026, that's fine. This is what I needed to cast here. This is int, right? It has to be an int here. So I'm graduating, right? And then for them to run this program, they were running that program, although it's resulting in like runtime errors, is it? I'm graduating in 2 years time. Duration is 2 years. So I'm graduating in 2028 or something. Oh, technically speaking, actually, it's supposed to be +3. Is it? Graduation is a year after you complete, right? I guess. Yeah. So I don't know. Maybe I'll have another +1 here. 2026. Anyway, it doesn't matter anyway. So you see what's happening here. Every time, if I want to share this program with you so that you run it, you will need an interpreter for you to run this program on your computer. Why? Because Python is an interpreted language. So you need an interpreter. What else do we need? We discovered that we need, because we are interested in writing computer programs, for us to be able to write computer programs, we need something to write those instructions, right? The high-level instructions. What do we need? An integrated development environment. Integrated development environment, IDE, or text editor, right? If you notice, I've been using the terminal a lot myself, and when I use the terminal, every time I want to write code, right, I just say VI, and then I open the file, right? VI is a text editor, right? If you notice, VI improved, a programmer's text editor. And there are a number of such terminal-based tools that you can use, right? Like Nano, my doctoral supervisor used Joe as an editor. Joe. I guess I would have to install Joe or something like that for this to work. I can install Joe or something. Programmers have a funny way of naming software tools, right? So there are a number of editors that you can use ideally. But the key thing here is an editor allows you to write code. Guess what? What I've been using here, like this application here, is called Kate. And Kate is a text editor as well. In fact, it's considered an advanced text editor. I love it. You know why I love it? With Kate, because I program in, I teach different courses and I do different things that are to do with computing. Sometimes I'll need to write bash commands and stuff, JavaScript. With Kate, observe, I can literally use all these different languages. If you notice mode here, I can choose what? 3D, and I'm teaching computer graphics, right? We are working with we're supposed to be working with the OpenGL shading language, right? This is GLSL, for instance. This is for 3D programming, right? If you notice, for assembler, for a very long time, I used to teach MIPS assembler, right? This is low-level programming idea. So when I was teaching MIPS assembler, I was using Kate to demonstrate these things. When we get to a stage where we're looking at databases, we'll discuss SQL. I can write SQL commands using this editor. And every time I change this, right, observe, if I come to the mode here and I say, but where are you? Mode is SQL. every time I write select, right? You see how it's highlighting, right? Star from table name. Where, right? You notice how it's highlighting these keywords from SQL. If I change this mode here and I say, well, I want to change the mode to what we are doing right now, not markup. There's markup as well. You know, this is where you have XML, HTML, you know, JSON and all those things. These are markup languages. When I was in the telecom sector, those of you that are working for Zamtel, MTN or something, I'm sure you deal with files that are coming from your MSCs or something. They're usually in, those raw files are usually in ASN.1 format, it's called. Yeah. Anyhow, so you can actually use this. It's an advanced editor here. Notice these are all different languages here. But what are we doing here? Python. I'll come here. It's a scripting language. I'll scroll down. All of these are languages, right? Python is here. When I choose Python here and I start writing things like print, right? It knows that the print is a keyword in Python. This is a wonderful editor, really. So you need a text editor, right? Or an integrated development environment. The difference is that your IDE is so advanced that it will have things like code completion. So if you notice here, when I was typing print here, there's no code completion. But if I use an editor, like Visual Studio Code, although it's considered a text editor really, but it's a sophisticated text editor. The moment I start writing these keywords, like if I'm dealing with a .py file, it will autocomplete. So observe, I'm coming here and I want to create a new file called CSC 6741.py. This editor will know that I'm dealing with Python. Yeah, but come on, open the file. Why are you not working this? Oh, the file already exists. I'll just say, I'll say 2 here. I'll go to code here and then just say CSC 6741.2.py. The moment I press enter here and I come in here, observe what's happening. If I say PIRT here, print, I don't know why it's not, maybe DEF. Maybe I should save this, I guess. There's supposed to be autocomplete. I don't know why it's not autocompleting. The idea behind autocomplete is that you avoid making errors because this IDE kind of anticipates, it knows, it makes guesses, educated guesses on what you want to write. Okay? So that's the beauty with an IDE. But once you get to a stage where you know what you're writing, you can just write using a text editor because it's much faster, is it? If I'm on the terminal here and I'm writing commands, it's much, much faster than opening up the editor and then I start typing like this. Anyhow, right? So we said you need an IDE, an interpreter, right? And we had a discussion of the broad spectrum of IDEs. What else do you need? Well, we said at a later stage, you need some package manager or something, right? PIP or something like that. If you're using Conda, that's fine. So PIP will allow you to install these other packages that we're going to start looking at right away. But at a bare minimum, for us to get started, you just need the interpreter and your text editor or the integrated development environment, is it? And then you're done. You're all set to go. Now, today, right, I want us to briefly look at another tool. I'll call this an IDE, really, because I mean, technically speaking, your Jupyter Notebook is like an IDE. It's perfect for data science because what is crucial to data science is that you work with what's called a pipeline, so a series of steps to achieve a goal. Okay, so I'll give you an example. If your goal is to kind of like build a model, right? I'm working on a data science project that involves building a model that is going to allow you to do chain prediction or something, right? If you're working for the telecommunications sector or something like that. Well, you notice that you will go through some series, right, of steps where you have to collect data. You need to pre-process the data, right? You need to transform data, and then you build model. Once you build the model, in all likelihood, you will evaluate model, and then you deploy the model. Now it turns out that one approach would be you write different programs, right, to do these things here, different programs. But the challenge in that is for people to actually be able to make immediate use of what you'd have done, the solution. It will be difficult, right? It's cumbersome. So what do? You facilitate the process of reproducibility, right? That's the essence of these so-called Jupyter Notebooks, right? They facilitate reproducibility, they call it, right? It makes it a lot easier for people to be able to reuse your solutions, to use your solutions ideally. So we're going to look at Jupyter Notebooks, and it turns out that Jupyter Notebooks can be used in two main ways, right? You can either install local instance of Jupyter Notebook or Jupyter Lab, and then this will enable you to create these notebooks, to save them, right? Or you can use a cloud based notebook, and we're going to look at Google Colab. It's one of the most widely used cloud-based services. Okay, but the idea is the same. Now, the goal today is to try and understand how exactly do I assemble these notebooks. Whether you're using Google Colab or Jupyter Lab or Jupyter Notebook, how do you create this notebook, right? And a nice way of thinking about these two variations here is this would be the same as Microsoft Word. Okay, this should be same equivalent to MS Word. This would be equivalent to, I don't know what you use in MS 365 or something, 365 online or something. I don't know what it's called. But or you could say this is Google Docs. These are all word processors, is it? The only difference is that with this you don't have to install Google Docs. Whereas with Microsoft Word you need to install the Office package ideally. Okay? Anyhow, hope it's making sense here. Now, the question is, I mean, what exactly is this notebook we're talking about? The notebook. And in essence, really, your Jupyter Notebook is a web application, right? And the web application itself comprises of a series of things, a number of things, not a series of things, but a number of things. The web application or the notebook itself will comprise of textual content. So text, live code, right? Programs, in our case, would be Python code. You can have equations. If you're working on some sophisticated data science problem, maybe you want to include equations so that people understand how you arrived at your solution. You can actually embed these things in there. And more importantly, visualizations, right? Because crucial to this pipeline that I was talking about here is at some stages here, you need to visualize data. Like when you're evaluating here, you visualize, you create visualizations, graphs. In fact, when you deploy your model, it could be like if you're doing a cluster analysis or something like that, k-means clustering and stuff, there's a bit of visualization here. When you're processing data, right, when you're trying to handle now values or something, it's visualization, right? So we see that this web application notebook can comprise of textual content, live code, equations, and visualizations. Now I'm going to context switch, okay, quickly. I'm going to context switch quickly so that you gain an appreciation of this. And I want to context switch and open a notebook. I don't know if I'll be able to find what I'm looking for here, and I want to find but why is this thing coming here? I want to find I can't find Google Colab here, which is, I really wanted to find an example notebook that has something that we can consider to be complex. Something that is complex, really. Maybe if I search for code here, I'll be able to find it in the root. I want you to gain an appreciation of this. Or if I check for IPython, IP, Interactive Python Notebook, maybe this will give me the things that I want. I don't know if I'll be able to find what I'm looking for. I have a series of notebooks here, but I want something that has something that is complex, kind of. I don't know if I'll be able to find it or something. Probably not. Okay, I may be able to find it here actually. If I go to research, I feel showing you the end result is going to be tremendously useful than just talking in the abstract. I mean, we want to assemble a notebook, obviously, but there we go. This is what I wanted. And I think we have something in code. I think I'll be disappointed if we don't. And I think this is what I want. All right, so observe. This is a classic, what you're going to see right now is a classic example of a notebook, right? A real world notebook, okay? And it's taking a while here to load, I don't know why, but hopefully, there we go, right? So if you notice from this thing here, and I'm going to zoom in slightly here so that you can kind of see here. There's a series of data that we have embedded in this notebook, right? Text. This is what you're seeing here is text to data. There's images, obviously, like this. There's code, right? What you're seeing here is, this is bash, actually. Well, I'm using cell magic here to kind of like run bash commands here, but anyway, this is code, right? This is just an output here, output of the installation that I'm doing on top there. What else? Python code, you have your import statements and all those things, right? I'm importing packages here. Bash, Python, yeah, just Python still. These are just results. Here I'm trying to get to the stage where you have visualizations, right? There we go. Visualizations as well, right? And we have a whole bunch of visualizations in here. I don't know if this is one, but not a lot here. There's another project where we have a lot of visualizations here. So visualization, in essence, you notice that it's quite a complex notebook here. There's quite a lot going on here. Fundamentally, we are creating computer programs here, right? They are doing all sorts of things here. But the beauty of using a notebook like this is I can literally just share this notebook with you. If you open it up in Google Colab and you run it, you'll be able to get the same exact results as I have got. But why is this? Like what I've gotten here. Right? The same exact things. Right? So, anyways, a couple of visualizations and stuff. So, we see here that we are saying that, this thing is supposed to have, this notebook is supposed to have textual content, live code, programs, equations, and visualizations. Could be a bit more here. Now, another important thing to stress here is that when you're using a notebook, right, there's this notion of a kernel, right? In essence, more or less like the language that you're going to be using, the primary language you'll be using in that notebook. In our case, we'll be using our Python kernel, but it's worth mentioning that there are a number of other kernels that you can use, right? Like for instance, you can program in R, for instance, using a notebook itself. Okay, now in terms of setup instructions, remember I said there are two main ways of using a notebook. You can install software on your local machine to be able to create notebooks and to edit notebooks or playback notebooks, or you can use Google Colab, cloud-based version. Just like when you're creating documents, you can download Microsoft Word or Microsoft Office, you install it on your computer so that you're able to go to start and then you open, or you can use Google Docs, right? The choice is you. Now, in terms of installing Jupyter Notebooks on your machine, if you just go to jupyter.org, I'm going to get rid of this, or maybe I'll just go to. So if you go to jupyter.org, you will find that the instructions for you to install this Jupyter Lab and kind of like Jupyter Notebooks. The variation is, it's a trivial one really. One of them allows you to do a bit more here, right? Which is Jupyter Lab here, but you can install also the classic notebook if you want to. Now, in my case, I'm just going to use my environment because I'm already in my environment here, right? So I'll just do a pip. I'll follow these instructions here. Pip install Jupyter Lab, right? Pip install Jupyter Lab like this, and then this thing is going to install Jupyter Lab in here for me. So what I'm going to do is I didn't install it. I want to showcase how you install this. I'm installing it in my environment. You can literally do the same thing on your computer. Be able to install Jupyter Lab. I will also install, once this is done, I will also install Jupyter Notebooks or Jupyter Notebook, so that we open the two things at the same time and gain an appreciation of what the fundamental difference is. I don't know what this is here. If that is making sense. So I'm just going to wait for this to finish. It's probably going to take a while, but hopefully it will finish very, very soon here, right? The beauty, I guess, when you're installing software like this, you only install it once up until the next time you want to set up a completely new computer or something like that. I don't know if that's a good thing or it's not a good thing. Okay, so we're going to install Jupyter Lab. Again, these instructions are on jupyter.org, and then when you go under install, you'll be able to find instructions related to your operating system. I'm using Ubuntu myself. I don't remember it taking this long, but I'm sure there are prerequisite packages as well that are required. What you notice is that I believe your Jupyter Notebook probably wouldn't or is not going to take as long, if you will. It appears though it's also installing notebooks here. I don't know what. Oh, they've done. Took a while. I don't know what that is here. Took a while. And then what I'm going to do as well is I'm going to install notebook, is it? Although I think it's already been installed here, I suspect. Install notebook. I see things have changed here. Previously, it used to be Jupyter Notebook or something. So that when I want to run Jupyter Notebooks, I'll just say Jupyter Notebook. And what happens, because this is a web application, what happens is your default browser is used to spin out this web application. Remember I said a notebook is a web application. So behind the scenes here, you'll notice that there's this web application which is going to run on localhost, is it? Right on your computer, right on a computer like that. And you notice in the address bar here, if I copy the URL here, what is happening is that web application is running locally on port 8888, so 8888 here. this is what we are calling, well, this is Jupyter Notebooks here, but the way I would create a notebook here is I want to create it, I want to create it in here. And then I'll just say new. You notice that one of the things I have to do is specify the kernel, right? So just say Python 3 here, Python kernel here. And it's going to open up the notebook itself. So here is where you'll be writing your text, your code, like print. The same Python code I wrote here. Say I will be graduating in. Remember what I did in? And I said 2026 or something plus input, enter the duration of your program or something like that. And I would go through the way you do this here. I can just play it, right? Shift enter or something, and then it's asking me enter the duration of the program. It says like a 2-year program, enter, and then it tells me I'll be graduating in 2028 or something like that, right? So this is like your notebook, is it? Jupyter Notebook. But remember I said you can also use Jupyter Lab, right? And with Jupyter Lab, I'll do the same thing. I don't know if it runs on a separate port here, maybe, but I don't want to take a chance here. I'll close this, I'll shut it down. Once I shut it down, because this is a web application, it will still be in my browser like so, yeah? But what I'll do now is I'll open Jupyter Lab. And how do I open Jupyter Lab? Once installed, instead of Jupyter space notebook, I just run Jupyter space lab. And again, it will do more or less the same thing, right? It's going to spin out, ideally, it will spin out, it will open up a window in my browser. My default browser is Chrome. In fact, here, if you notice, it's even telling you, right, to say I'm opening up a window. If you scroll this thing here, I'm opening up an application on this port here, port 8800, the same type of port, which is why I had to close the other one. Otherwise, there'll be a conflict. So, in other words, you have to choose between Jupyter Lab and Jupyter Notebooks. So, notice how this interface is somewhat similar to notebooks, but it seems like it has slightly more features, is it? And which is actually true, right? So it's a feature-rich alternative to Jupyter Notebooks, ideally. Again, though, the feature is the same here. I can open up an interactive Python notebook, but you notice that some of the things I can do here is I can install extensions, right? So I can expand upon the vanilla installation of Jupyter Lab here to pimp it, in essence. But if I just want to use it to write, notebook, to create notebooks, you notice by default, when I create that interactive Python notebook, it opens this untitled.ipynb, right? Interactive Python notebook. I can do things here like rename this and stuff, but similar to what I did in notebooks, I can again print here. Print, I will be graduating in, and then I'll do the same thing. It's like 2026 plus input, enter the duration of your program or something like that. Again, shift enter here is going to prompt me for the number here, number of duration of the program, 2 years, enter, and then it outputs the same thing. So you notice, if we compare the interface, right? I'm going to go to notebooks. You notice that the variation here is such that, come on. I've started hating this new feature in Chrome where you can split. I like yanking these things out like this. No, come on. I don't like the new feature here. It's horrible. Separate. Okay. So, notebooks, if you notice, Jupyter Notebook, and then Jupyter Lab. You notice that the features, right, are slightly different here. Look at this panel here. Yeah, I can install, what is this? I agree. I can install all of these different extensions here, you know, do all sorts of things here. But I can't do that here, right? The goal is the same anyway. For starters, I think you can just install, notebook, Jupyter Notebook. That should be fine, because our interest is on essentially just using creating a notebook. Really, we're not really concerned about extensions associated with Jupyter Lab and all those things. Okay, so assuming that we've installed, and I do encourage you to work with me here and attempt to install these things as well. If you can manage. Yeah. Anyways, so assuming you've installed this, right? We're saying that when we open up our notebook, right? Either you using Jupyter Lab or Jupyter Notebook, it turns out that the way you specify or where you write your text and your code is in the cells. So by default, you'll notice here, I can delete this actually. By default, when you open up a new notebook, like I have here, it's entitled here. In fact, I can maybe rename this to, I like calling them in a certain way, Unza, code Unza 6741, and then I'll call this, I don't know what I'm going to call this here, but I'm going to call this, I don't know, notebooks or something, or Jupyter Notebooks, like that. I've just renamed the file. It's always nice, right? And it turns out when you're opening this, yeah, I'm installing it where? I'm creating these notebooks on my machine. So in this folder, if I go in Playground, I'll be able to find these things here, right? They are literally files that are being created. So think of what we're doing here as you using Microsoft Word to create those documents. In this particular case, I'm using Jupyter Notebook or notebooks to create these interactive Python notebooks, these things. And really, if you want, you can even check the type of files, right? This is literally a text file here. I can open this with Kate and I'll be able to see, although it's in JSON and stuff, but in essence, it's a plain text file, right? Anyways, so we are saying that text and code is specified in these cells here. So what you're seeing here is a cell, right? I can write an example, say this, this is there are different types of cell details that talk about that. This is a code cell. And the way I know it's a code cell is on top here, if you notice here, it says code cell, but I can also create a Markdown cell or something. So in this particular case, if it's a code cell, I can say, I want to create a Markdown cell, right? So that it recognizes Markdown here. And I'll call this preliminaries. Jupyter Notebooks, right? So that's text, specifying text like that. Okay, so we're saying that text and live code and all of those things we're talking about, like visualizations, are specified in cells. So when we get to a stage where we're using Matplotlib and Seaborn, we'll be writing code right here actually. So in here we'll be doing things like import, right? Matplotlib, and if I have it, it's going to import that. I don't know why this thing is asking me to. It's going to import that if I've installed it, which I have, right? In fact, it's a import matplotlib.pyplot as plot or something like that, and then I would say right here I'll say plot.py. If you remember what we did last time, so I'm gonna do, I don't know about this, 20%, 20%, 50%, 30%. So I even draw a pie chart like this, right? So in essence, what we're saying is that the text and live code is specified in these cells. These are code cells. These are text. This is a text cell here. I have Markdown, and then these are code cells. You notice when I'm observe in here where I have this text code preliminaries Jupyter Notebooks. If I double click in this and look at the text on top here, you see where there's Markdown here. It changes Markdown. If I move the cursor and click in line number 2 here, it changes to code ideally. Okay. Anyway, so the key thing though is the text and live code and equations and all those things are specified in cells. And then we use the toolbar or the menu bar to perform operations. Like for instance, to execute the code or the text in the cells for you to see a result. Like for instance, if I wish to execute this cell here, what do? I will click on this play button here in the toolbar, right? And you notice the tooltip says run this cell and advance. So I can press this, it's going to play. If I want to execute the second line here, I'll click in here, click the play, right? It executes. I will come to a part where we're talking about some of these things here. By the way, like the numbers, you notice that the numbers change here. If I execute again, it changes to 6, huh? Right? It's a way of keeping track of what has been executed ideally. Anyways, what is key here is I'm saying that you're using the menu items. So if you want to execute, you can come here and you go to the menu under run and you say run selected cell. Boom. It's going to do the same thing as you using the toolbar, right, to run. Or you can use the shortcut, which I prefer myself. I usually just use my keyboard and I'll press shift enter to run. At a later stage, you'll notice that features like run all become extremely useful. It's like run all cells. Like if I were to share that what I called as a complex, don't know where it is here, a complex notebook like this, I said, what I can do is I can run all the cells. It's this one here. I don't know if it's the one here. Yeah. Run everything from the top to the bottom of this. And this is quite complex here. There's a lot of, this thing has a lot of, this thing is complex. It has a lot of cells here. All right. Anyhow, and then as you're executing the code, right, the output will generally appear immediately below the input cell. Now I'm saying generally because for some cells, for instance, text cells, I'm going to delete these. Observe, delete. This is a textual content here. If I press the run here, observe here, it's text that has these 2 hashes, right? If I press run, no output right below here. The output kind of like appears right within the same cell. So when I double click here, it becomes code, which is Markdown. If I run, it is executed right then and then. Right? This is a special case idea. But if I write print hello CSC 6741, and I run this, the output from this code cell will appear right below, right here. You see this? What I'm seeing right below this output is tied to this. You understand this? Okay? I guess, I don't know if this is making sense here. Now, textual content is generally specified using a markup language called Markdown. Okay? And for those of you that are not familiar with what markup language is here, really, a markup language is a language that kind of allows you to specify how you're going to structure content that you have. You know, so HTML is a markup language. If we go to the UNZA website, right? What we see on the page here is markup, HTML markup, and we can see the source, is it? If I open up the source here, I can copy the source actually. I'm going to copy everything here and say copy out HTML here. So what you're seeing here, everything on the website here is actually being rendered by this code here, right? This is, it's called HTML, and HTML is a markup language. Of course, I mean, embedded within here you have CSS and all those things, but there's probably a little bit of JavaScript and stuff, but that's besides the point. It's markup, right? So we specify text in here using a markup language called Markdown. XML is a markup language. JSON is a markup language. In fact, when I was showcasing to you this code Kate, I told you to say, I can change the settings, I can change the mode here and specify different types of languages. If I go under markup, these are the different types of markup languages. ASN.1, CSS is a markup language. HTML, JSON, LaTeX. For those of you that have done mathematics, I'm sure they told you when you're writing documents, your lecturers, you should typeset your documents using LaTeX or LaTeX, not latex, but LaTeX or LaTeX, right? Yeah, so all of these are different types of markup languages. We're trying to give you an idea of the range of markup languages that are there. YAML has become quite common. There's XML, extended markup language, quite common as well, right? Yeah, and then there's Markdown here, which is what we are using. Now, when I'm talking about Markdown here, because we're going to be discussing Markdown on how to create content here, I always tell people to say, if you go on Wikipedia, right? If you go on Wikipedia, on the Wikipedia page, Wikipedia, right, uses Markdown. So it's only now that they've introduced a visual edit or something, but if you go under edit on Wikipedia, you see that the content is, this is Markdown. Start editing. This is all Markdown. So what you see on the Zambia page here is Markdown. This is all Markdown. Okay. Now we're not really interested in trying to have a firm sense of Markdown, and it's a simple language really to learn. There are only a few tags here, but we're going to focus on a few things here because it is important for us to appreciate the fact that this markup language, right? I'm going to come back here. This Markdown that we are writing, imagine a situation where you're writing code about these different things here. Data collection, preprocessing, visualizations and stuff. Your I don't know if I'll be able to get to the top here. But your notebook is going to get as complex as mine, right? When it gets complex, you need a way of describing the different sections of the notebook. Text. And that text is going to be specified using Markdown. Observe. This output that you're seeing is defined by this Markdown here. There's a little bit of embedded HTML as well. What you're seeing here, this is Markdown. And this is, so what you're seeing here, this image to the right here, this text, like proposed solution, and then this, where you have acknowledgements here, this is an image. This is specified using this text here, this Markdown text. Believe it or not, what you're seeing there is being rendered using this. Okay? Now, it turns out that there's some common markup associated with Markdown, right? Like one of the things you're going to have to do is specify the structure of your notebook. So for instance, if we are to mimic the data collection and all that, one of the things you'd want to do is to say, I have a section for data collection. I have another section for data preparation or pre-processing. I have another section for modeling. I have another section for evaluation, and then deployment in your notebook itself. And so a nice way of doing this is you organize these sections in a certain way so that somebody sees, oh, these are actually sections or chapters in this notebook. Just like when you're writing a document, right? A long document like your report or something, you structure it into sections, is it? If it's a long document, it will be chapters. The idea is the same here. And what we are saying is that you can use headings, right? So the way Markdown works is that you use the pound sign to specify the heading. So 1 pound sign means this is heading 1. 2 hashes, these pound signs, heading 2, heading 3, right? And I think it goes up to heading 4 or something, level 4. So these are levels, and it turns out that these levels are exactly the same as the levels that you have in HTML. If you've used HTML, you know that a heading 1, for instance, is going to be, observe, if you are in HTML, right? If you want to add these things here, you'd have something like HTML. I don't know if you've written HTML, it doesn't matter though. If you are HTML, and then you have something like the head tag, closing tag, and then you have the title here, closing tag for the title. I'll just call this, I don't know where this is coming from here. I'll call this CSC 6741 Markdown tutorial, something like that. I'll just save this and I'll put it in the folder I'm using, yeah? In here, in Playground actually is where I prefer to add this. And then I'll just call this sample HTML or something like that, .html. I'll call this Markdown tutorial.html. Right, so I've created this, and what I can do is I can open this up, is it? I'm gonna open this up, Playground. I'll open this up in my browser because my browser is going to render, it easily renders the static pages, is it? I'll come here and then I'll open up the file. So I've created an HTML file. If I open the Markdown tutorial here, it's blank right now. But what I'm saying is, if I come here and in the body, if I start adding things like 1, 2, 3, 4, I can start adding things like H1. In HTML, what was the 1 pound is like H1, and I'll call this data collection or something. If I save this and I open this in here, it will be like a heading 1. So data collection is like a heading 1. I don't know if you can see this. If I change this and I say under data collection, we're going to say H2 is identification of data sources, something like that. H2, heading 2. Heading 1, another heading 1 is data pre-processing. Like this. If I save this and I open this, you notice that heading 2 is much smaller, right? This identification of data sources. In fact, if I start going down here and I have an H3 here, which is heading 3, I'll close it also. I can say verify data sources or something like that. And then I can have the P, paragraph, right? This stage involves verification of identified data sources, something like that. If I open this, you notice that heading 3 is much smaller than heading 2, which in turn is smaller than heading 1. Now again, I'll zoom in here slightly. Again, by the way, can you hear me? I don't know if I've disconnected here.
I can hear you.
Oh, okay. I can't see myself on my other phone here. Whoa. I normally use this as a way to check if I've disconnected. You know, it has happened there where I'm sitting there and I'm talking to myself and say, no, sir, but, you know, Lighton, you disappeared after 10 minutes ago. Like, what? I was talking to myself, and then you start asking, well, but what was I talking about? And you double back. But also, that's okay. So the thing here is that when you're using a word processor, like Microsoft Word, the same idea applies, is it? They'll tell you to say you can create your style. A nice way of writing a word process, you can create a style. Data collection, data pre-processing, identification of data sources, verification of data sources. Now, when you're writing, usually they'll tell you the way you write is when you're writing. In fact, even LaTeX say, "Oh, LaTeX is good because you focus on the content or something, not the structure." Well, a word process is designed like that. Right? You shouldn't really have to worry about how am I going to style this, right? You can do this towards the end, actually. So as you're writing here, towards the end, you say, "Oh, this is level 1 heading." You highlight it. You come here, and then I say heading. Sorry, no, I'll highlight it and then I'll choose heading 1. I'll come here, and then I'll choose heading 2. I come here, dude, come on. I'll choose heading 3, right? Pre-processing heading 1. And this thing is done on your behalf. And then at a later stage, if you want, you can kind of like do fancy things here, like you start editing your style. Is it this? Styles. So you can edit the way this looks and say, well, I don't want my heading to be like this because it's using Liberation Sans. What I want to do is I want to edit this style. I want it to be much, much bigger or something like this. Font, the size is not 18, it's going to be 20 or something. And then you apply it. When you apply it, it cascades or something. But anyways, the idea is the same, right? One tag that you're going to use is, but where is it? The one tag that you're going to use often is, I don't know, is the headings tags. And you notice here we are saying that you don't use H1 for HTML or you don't apply the style like you did in Microsoft Word or something, or word processor, but you use a pound sign. Observe again, I'm going to go back to, I was showcasing examples in HTML and Microsoft Word. If we go back to our code here, right, for us to specify the text code, it is important that when you create by default, right, observe, if I delete this and I run this, when you run a cell, if I click the play button or I press Shift Enter, automatically it creates an empty cell right below. Now this empty cell is going to be in focus, like right now, there's a cursor which is blinking in here, right? Now you notice something on top here, where I have code here. This specifies the type of cell. This is a code cell, but it could be a Markdown cell. So if you want to create Markdown in here, you change this, you focus, put this in focus, and then you say, change this to Markdown, right? So this has become Markdown. And now, because it's Markdown, I can write those codes. If this is a code cell, and I attempt to say, well, this, I want this to be, this is data collection. And then I want after data collection, I want, delete this. After data collection, I want to have the same structure here. Double hashes, and I'll create identification of data sources. And then 3, I'll say verification of data sources. Well, if you attempt to run this, it won't output anything. And we'll talk about that later on. It's not outputting anything because a hash in Python, this is a code cell and I'm using an interactive Python, right? So it thinks this is Python code. In Python, a hash is a comment. So a comment doesn't output anything. For you to output, to showcase that these are textual content like Markdown, you have got to change this to Markdown cell. And then when you press enter, it's going to showcase this. Level 1, level 2, level 3. Double click. What is the other one? Data pre-processing. Enter. You understand this? Anyway. Okay. And then we see here, right, that and I'm going to have to, sadly, right, I'm going to have to, I don't know, but maybe this won't work also. There's supposed to be some meeting I'm supposed to attend, and so I guess this is me telling you up front that the lecture is going to be like an hour and a half short, half the time. Hopefully we'll make up here this coming weekend or something, because there's a committee meeting that I'm attending, right? And I'd already excused myself, but the chairperson had hinted at the fact that it's one of those important meetings or something. So apologies up front here. But the other markup we do, this should be enough way to do a bit of practice in Jupyter Notebooks. I will share the notebook associated with what we're talking about here. The other markup tags that you can use, if you can call them that, are lists, is it? You want to be able to list things here, right? It's like, how do we list things? Well, in the way you list things in here is, so verify source 1, verify source 2, verify source 3 or something. A list is this, right? List. And I mean, if you've done your HTML here, you know the drill or something. I usually use HTML as an example here because it kind of, so you come here, you know, in HTML that lists are what? This is an unordered list, is it? UL, unordered list, and then you have your list here. List, close the list, verify source 1, verify source 2, verify source 3, and all that stuff, right? Verify source 2, verify source 3, like this. Save this, and you open up this, and it will have bullets. So lists are of two types, right? Ordered and unordered. Okay? Unordered are those bullet points. Ordered are enumerated. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's ordered list. In HTML, it's OL, tag or something. Now, in Jupyter Notebooks, what you do is you use the asterisk. By the way, those of you that are paying attention, you probably agree with me that, oh, that's the reason why these things work, right? In WhatsApp, it's a modified version of Markdown in WhatsApp. Huh? You know that in WhatsApp you can use tags like, if you use asterisk, it automatically converts it into a bullet. So those are like some of those tags here, like those are Markdown tags. Okay, not the classical Markdown tags really. But so for an unordered list, use asterisk. So if I come here, verify source 1, verify source 2, I can copy these things, and then I'll come to the code here. In here, I can add an asterisk, a star, an asterisk, an asterisk. And if I render this, it will be a bullet like this. Okay? And then there's the ordered list. The ordered list is simple. Right? I'll come here. I'll say 1, remove, I'll just say case folding. Number 2 is going to be stop weight removal. Stemming. Turns out that for you to enumerate this, you just append a number, right, before, and then this is going to number it like this. In fact, the interesting thing is, even if I use the same number here, 11111, it will know, right? It's going to order it, but it's going to be confusing when you look at the raw source code idea. Okay, so that's that. And then you have, I think I'm going to have to excuse myself from that thing here, but I don't know also. I don't know, people who not, but I don't know. Then you have your Python code. So that's the text itself. So the text ideally is there to help you explain the notebook fundamentally. You're providing text. But what is key is the code itself. Now, if you've programmed before, the nice thing about the textual content is these are like comments or something, right? But, or documentation ideally. You're documenting the notebook itself. But what you have besides textual content is actual code now, right? Now, Python code is specified in its raw form in the cells. I've already given an example. You just write the Python commands, right? Define a function to add numbers. How many numbers? 2 numbers. Number 1, var number 1, comma var number 2. I will explain all these things here. Define this function and then just print the result of adding number 1 and number 2. Right? So that when I invoke this function, add 2026 and 2, it will give me it's fxn here. It will give me the answer, which is 2028, like this. Do you understand this? So Python code is specified in its raw form. So whatever you're writing in your text editor, for instance, if you're using Google Colab, you can write it exactly the way you're writing it in these cells, and it will run. So any Python code that you enter in here will run. Now, we haven't yet started looking at the Python code itself, so I'm going to defer this to when we start looking at the Python code. Okay? You know, at the very least, let me just if I can just log into here and attempt to, I don't know if this will work here, but I want to attempt to kind of like record the I want to record the meeting, if you will, I guess. Sorry about
that's what I can brief you before the people come, my CEO.
No, thank you, Chair. And I think for me, thanks for the briefing. And for me, I commend you. You know, it's quite rare this part of the world for people to willingly hand
Sorry about
over
that, everybody. I'm trying to see if I can quickly
responsibility at the highest level. But I think for continuity, new energy, new ideas, and I think it's important. To me, I feel that.
I just want them to let me in or something. Sorry about that. Right. So I hope they'll let me in. Let me in or something. Anyways, so this Python code, right? You specify it in its raw form. Now the other thing is that I don't want to confuse this, right? But you will see me use what are called shell commands using cell magics. So for instance, you know how when I've been using this, I'll run commands like ls, pwd, right? Check the space, du, for instance. Well, I can run these same commands using what are called cell magics, right? And the number of cell magics, you know, get back to here. For instance, if I want to list files in here, I'll just put an exclamation mark ls, and then it's going to list the same output I get when I come here and I say list. This is what I'm seeing there. Okay. Anyways, things like pwd, present working directory, and then it's going to show me that, oh, you're in here or something like that. It is, for me, these are extremely useful because I do a lot of bash scripting, right? So there's some things that I can't do quickly in Python, and I'll just run shell commands. In fact, these happen to work also in Google Colab, if you will. Okay. If that is making sense here. So I want to defer the discussion on cell magics because I would want for us to kind of start having a conversation around Python, and then in the process I'll be introducing us to these cell magics. So you can run shell commands, but you can also even run a number of other things in here, right? You can run magic. You can run a number of other things here, right? Right. So you can run these are OS magics, you know. You can run JavaScript code. You can even run LaTeX code right within here, right? Using these magics, if you will. I don't know if this is making sense here. And I don't know if these people are letting me in or not. I want to record that thing. Okay. Some of these may be useful magics here when I don't think we're going to be timing or checking how long the code is running or executing. Maybe not. But, you know, you can integrate other markup languages that you can embed HTML code in there. If Markdown is not sufficient to do the things you want, you can use HTML code, right? And stuff. And then we have visualizations as well. So I'm going to I'm going to propose that we continue. I'm available. I would like to schedule 2 slots with you. Saturday. Now, please don't say that Women's Day or something. Saturday and Sunday, or Saturday and Monday, because we're not, technically speaking, we're not supposed to have class on Monday because it's a holiday, is it? Women's Day falls on a Sunday, so Saturday is a holiday. So I'd like to suggest that we maybe have class on Saturday and on Sunday, or Saturday and Monday. The only thing I'll require from you is just let me know early enough what time, because tomorrow I have another class and I'm going to ask them to schedule a time on the same days. So either one of you will choose maybe 14 or 17 hours. So best you choose what you want right away. And then when we meet, we will really, I don't think we should be wasting time on how to use Google Colab, because I think I already kind of like implicitly introduced you to Google Colab to say all you need to do in Google Colab is you go to colab.research.google.com, and then you have access to the equivalent of Jupyter Notebook or Jupyter Lab. So the thing is slightly different, the interface, but the idea is the same. You do the same exact things. There are other features that I'll introduce you later on, like when you're reading data, you can actually read data from your drive, for instance, easily, right? In fact, they've integrated it with generative AI, so you can write prompts as well now, and then it automatically generate things on your behalf. But the idea is the same. Code cell, right? The only difference is that whereas Jupyter Notebook here allows you to just use this feature where you specify whether a cell is code cell or markdown cell or something. In here, you have these 2 options where there's a code and text. So text allows you to create markdown. So if I want to create markdown here, I have to, because this is for Python code, I'll click on the text, right? And then in here is where I write markdown, here, data collection. And then I'll run it like this. The other nifty features, like you can move this cell on top or below or something. And I think it's somewhere to the left here. I can move it on top and move it below, reordering ideally, right? Yeah, but the idea is the same. It's just the interface. And again, the thing to appreciate about this is that this is in the cloud, so everything is being saved on your behalf. In fact, if I go to my drive, in my drive here, there's a folder, this yellow folder, is it orange or yellow or something, which is called Colab Notebooks. So everything that I'm creating from there is being saved on my behalf, right, in my drive in here. So these are the things here. I can just order them in ascending order here, and then I'll have access to these things. So in my case, I have access to all the notebooks I've been creating since I don't know when. Should be slightly more here. I don't know why it begins from 2020 here. I'm surprised. So for the last 6 years or something like that. Okay. Again, I do apologize that we're going to start late, but I'm going to pause here and try and ask if this is a good enough starting point for Markdown. When we meet next, we're going to jump into I want to say the actual Python thing here. Any questions or thoughts about this? I do apologize. I have to attend this meeting apparently. There are elections taking place, and yeah. All right. So if there are no questions, then I will see you on Saturday when we shall start with our makeup sessions. Let me just check if there are any comments that have been written in the chat. SharePoint, Microsoft. Okay, I guess this is a comment tied to when I was mentioning Google Colab and all those things. Please, at the very least, attempt to install Jupyter Notebooks and Jupyter Lab on your local machine. And then when I make available the notebook, try and see if you can import it and make modifications yourself. Okay? Okay, thank you very much, everybody. And apologies that we're cutting this short by about an hour or so. I'll see you on Saturday. Oh, sorry, there's a question there. I think David has a hand up. Yes, please. Oh, there are a couple of questions. Sarah as well. Okay. I don't know if it's just me, but I can't hear what David is saying. Is this the case for everybody? Let me see here if sorry about that.
Hello,
I think
CEO.
We can hear you, David. I think
Oh, yeah.
Doc, I don't know.
Yeah, I can
Maybe
hear
someone
you.
CEO,
Yes, one
Maybe I
question.
can just type
Ye-
it,
Yes,
if
question.
that's the case.
No,
can you
I can
repeat?
hear you now. I can hear
I
you.
missed you a bit.
There was a
Can
problem
you
on
so-
my end. I can hear you now.
Ah,
No,
okay.
no, no
Yes.
problem.
Okay, see.
I was
So I was saying
saying,
regarding CSC 6901, probability and statistics and data science.
Yes.
We haven't had any contact with the lecturer. We don't know who the lecturer is. We don't know
Oh.
anything literally. Yeah. So
I
if
do
we can
apologize for
have
that. I've taken note. But Dr. Nawa is supposed to. He hasn't even communicated with you.
no.
There's Dr. Nawa from Pure and Applied Mathematics. Can I don't know who the course rep is. Can I ask that the course rep reaches out to me and then I will share the contact details for Dr. Nawa? He's supposed to have reached out. I was under the impression he actually had class last week. If you haven't, apologies, but can I ask that the course rep just sends me a message? Right now, actually, I don't know if you have a course rep or a class representative or class representatives, and then I will share his details and then I'll make a follow-up myself personally.
Okay.
Are there any other courses where you haven't had classes in?
I think with the knowledge that I have is just the CSC 6901.
Okay, yeah. I sincere apologies for that. I will make a follow-up. I've taken note, but also maybe to help sometimes, right? You know, the class representatives can actually reach out and make a follow-up or something. So if you have a class representative or class representatives, have them contact me and then I will give them details about Dr. Now or something, and then I can also give them updates tomorrow.
All right, thank you.
Thank you very much. And then Sarah, I think, has a hand up as well.
I wanted to ask for the notes for the previous lesson we had and also this one.
Yeah, you know, there's this Moodle issue as well. I will email. I'm emailing them to the. I'll send the links to the. You know, I was trying to. There's a directive from DVC Academic Affairs for us to put up the notes on PG. I imagine most of you have access to pglms.unza.zm. That's the official learning management system. In the past, I've used Google Classroom. We've actually used Google Classroom as a department, but because it's a directive from DVC, it's the reason why almost all the lecturers currently are sharing these things via WhatsApp or something, which is not supposed to be the case. In fact, once assessments are administered, it really doesn't work for you to use WhatsApp or something, right? So for now, I will send through the links and in fact the notebooks as well, because I've prepared companion notebooks. I'm sending them via email in the next 5-10 minutes. Just give me 5 or 10 minutes.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Please have the class rep reach out to me, and then also, I'll share details about Dr. Now and stuff. Thank you very much. Good night.
Good night.
I did the same trend. I secreted the core to individual
Yes.
to show the importance of